really don't know. But I know that even if this is totally even playing field for the servers, I know that Clem is going to certainly give sort of a run for his money, sort of having a period where maybe he was, you know, rising up to top 5, let's say, Zergs. You know, maybe he was on his way up there, but never really got close, as close as he would have wanted. There's so many good Zergs in Europe that it's hard to ever get close to even top 10. Whereas Clem, I mean, okay, sure, one of the reasons he is so popular is because he's young and because we don't have a lot of foreigner/European Terrans, but he's also just really good. And TVZ tends to be, no matter the meta, Terran's strong suit. It's the race that they usually feel comfortable against, and while sometimes they'll see some exasperated tweets where they're like, I don't know what to do, I don't get how to get better, most of the time this is the matchup where both sides go, you know what? This is maybe a little imbalanced. That map might suck for this thing, but I think I know where things are the problem and what I can do to overcome them. Just general talk here, though, and it's really more about comparing it to, for instance, complaints about TVP, where we all know how that looks. Or even TVT, where it's more about the shenanigans that can happen, say, the Cyclone era. We saw a lot of tweets about that. Regardless, game number 1 on Port Alexander. It is the TVZ round of 16 match. So the winner of this goes into a qualifying match. The bottom right, as the red Terran, it is Clem. And top left, as the blue Zerg, it is SortOf. Apparently it's on Cascade. I want to say that's kind of newish. I don't know. What, a Mog is in the brackets. Yeah, he's another player, kind of like Johnny Rico, who will play in the regional qualifiers. Both still GM, both have a shot. But even amongst the names that you guys don't recognize, that I don't even recognize, for Europe, that is still a lot of top 200, right, GMs. It's still a lot of even top 100 GMs that do bother to try and qualify. So it's not like, you know, it's not like you get by number 32 or 31 just barely scraping out of the qualifier because you have tournament experience and you're decent. No, so do they. We still have a very large qualifier for Europe, full of players you don't recognize, but are looking to get that experience in tournaments and looking to outclass even some of our you know, once upon a time our regulars. That can be a fun thing about Europe. I mean, yeah, it's a little like any open qualifier. The first round is always like, like, is it really that great? Is it really even worth casting? But then there's some times where, yeah, it is. You know, you get those 2 players that are decently skilled, and you get the 1 player who advances on to face the guy we do know, and then suddenly they actually win, right? Like Nurtio versus Geralt, who we kind of know Geralt at this time, but just for an instance, he's still not super well known. He beat Nurtio, so there you go. Now this is really annoying. It's a really good use of an SEV scout. In fact, at some points, I would even argue this could be the next meta where everyone does this. But I don't think it's quite there yet. I think maybe it would have been if we still had a lot of early pools and a lot of Roach Ravager follow-ups, but we don't really have so many anymore. Early pools, sure, or pool first rather, but not so much of the Roach Ravager stuff, which is a big reason why you would scout. Here, you scout, maybe he was expecting a pool first, didn't actually happen, so what do you do with the SCV? You block an engineering bay, and on some maps, taking the other third base is really bad. Some maps doesn't really matter so much, but I'm gonna guess Sora didn't mean to take this one. He did want this third. He saw the drone circling it. So he's forced to take this base over here, and almost as if it was a reaction, he does go for a faster layer. And I was gonna say, with that fast of a layer, if it starts like 345 and beyond, you can kind of just give them like, okay, it's gonna be a normal-ish layer timing. If it's before that, around that, strong chance gonna be Nidus Worm. And that is something that Clem's going to have to worry about. So Clem's going for a third CC. He's not going for Banshees, which aren't really the key to victory against the Queens popping through anyways, but can help. The most important thing is that he's going for a tank, okay? So regardless of the Banshees or how fast he's going into his barracks, if the tank can find a spot to siege up behind an SCV pool or behind buildings, then this can be the thing that holds. But Clem so far is only just now figuring things out. He sees a large number of queens. He doesn't quite see the Nidus Worm. He might have even seen how many roaches there are, but the queens were also a really big giveaway. He's building bunkers on the front, but now he hears the Nidus Worm. This can be killed in this version of StarCraft 2, but it has such high carapace armor that it's really not going to happen. So you are still forced to deal with it as we would usually see it when it was invulnerable. So tank does get sieged up. This is, you know, usually you talk about giving kudos to the production. This is actually just usually how the Terrans produce, and they almost always have this little spot. But this is especially good. This was like almost in design for this tank. The Liberator is doing a lot of damage and denying a lot of mining. So even though Clem is losing a lot of SCVs, it looks like ultimately he will hold. And if he holds, he has 3 CC. They're now down at the front. And he has a production up even. So that's not a great sign for SortOf. As this did not work out. Tank even survives, and that's game. 19 SCVs was not enough, especially considering SortOf lost his own 11 or so. Even if he hadn't, this game is still Clem's to win. As the triple SCV production, triple mule would have really brought him back, along with medevac drop. So GG. Well done. SortOf tried a little cheese. Maybe looking for some revenge. Because of the block in Green Bay, but doesn't get it. Next fast gonna be on Automaton. Rail beat Adrian to be in a qualifying match against what is most likely gonna be Hearthstone. And there's your updates. You can always check out the bracket yourself with ! bracket. Gotta remind myself not to just talk constantly. So sorry for long silences, but casting these qualifiers solo and not compensating for a solo cast, I'm so out of practice, I guess, has done damage to my vocal cords. Oh, did I miss anything with this all going on? Oh. I did. I got some bitty bits. Thank you to Borsty for the $1.66. I guess that might have been like $2 euro. That happened 2 hours ago for the struggle day. And then Flaccid Lasses for 40 bits. Thanks. Oopsie daisy. Don't need the army supply. Oh, bother. Now everything's correct in the bottom left on Automaton. It is the Red Terran, Clem. On the top right, as the blue Zerg, he is SortOf. The winner of this faces either a laser or a Marine Lord, and I cannot tell you who is more likely to win. I thought that'd be a very close match, and so far they're still in battle, so I guess I was right about it. The WCS qualifiers do have a very odd veto system. Some players are tweeting about it, talking about it in chat. Most of them are just making it work, but it's odd because there is seeding in a tournament for this, right? I think just based off of previous WCS results, points, whatever. And they do purposefully have people on top, right? Higher above other people to have the seeds correct. So when you are forced to be the one to choose A or B, or maybe they're forced to be B, I'm not sure which one, but the point is B gets the advantage. I think that's actually what's the case. So usually A, if you're going to just force someone to be A because they have the higher seed, gets the advantage, because higher seed gets advantage. Makes sense. And B gets to, you know, not so much. Or at the very least, it's some kind of half and half, like, okay, it's kind of even, where you're A, so you get to choose the first map, but then you get to veto second, or something along those lines, right? The WCS qualifiers are doing it a little weird. They're giving B a big advantage, so it's veto A, B, B, A, I think, and then they choose B, A, C, or something like that. And for a lot of pros, they actually consider vetoing second to be the worst option, or better option, sorry, better option. So if we, you know, give them a choice to say, like, okay, you won the coin flip, A or B, they'd actually choose B. They want to veto second, they want to see what their opponent vetoes first. So with that in mind, having the top seed, the guy who vetoes first and chooses last, that's just a considerable advantage for the B player. Just wanted to talk about it while there's nothing else going on. And also to give some insight to maybe some people reading the tweets. As I said, most people aren't really saying anything about it. They're kind of mustering through. The maps of this map pool are really not that bad. Everyone's vetoing Stasis anyways, right? Otherwise, maybe you have some people who don't like Parasite for being such a long map. Maybe, you know, Kairos Junction, I think, is the one with the weird, or the abusable tank spot for TVZ. So, but you still, it's because it's best of 3, you still get 4 vetoes, two vetoes apiece. It's something to talk about and to be fixed for later, but it's not like everyone's up in arms about it. But I was mostly talking because nothing else is happening. Clem didn't SCV scout this game. No engineer bay block on the third base. Sort of can go into a macro game. Not that he couldn't last game. That was a decision he made maybe as a kind of FU because of the block, and maybe he was like, you know what, I'll just try and cheese him out the first game, get a bit of momentum. And whatever the reasoning, I don't believe he was just cut from going a macro game. Maybe he disagrees, I don't know. Well, this is a very aggressive first 2 Hellion rush, let's say. It can backfire. If SortOf has speed faster, he went for later speed in this game. And he has Lings set up somewhere. They surround this, instant death. If they're set up around here, then they just run into the main, or the natural rather, and boom, you trade out even on the workers. But in this case, without the speed done, without that many Lings anyways, the Hellions get 3 drones. Not actually what they wanted. With the Reaper getting some of those last hits, you can even go up to sometimes like 6 workers with that same push. But, yeah, not bad. Also get some scouting done. Saw how late the Ling speed was. Now, Clem's going into a battlecruiser. Obviously, the most important thing to talk about is the battlecruiser. Fusion Core finished up, getting Amato soon. That is the most important thing to talk about. But the other important thing to talk about was that he does have to remake Hellions. So I don't know if he wants to go into mech or bio beyond this. The longer we don't see a tech up on the barracks, the more likely it is that it's mech. But if you were to go into bio, you'd want to transition quicker off of Hellions usually, as they take up a lot of those minerals that go into barracks, right? They go into a 3rd CC. So even that, right? He had to build more Hellions, make sure he doesn't die to any counters, and also to continue harassing and controlling the map. So his 3rd CC wasn't the quickest it could be. But it's so much more about the battlecruiser. We do have armory on the way for those Hellbats, and it is looking more and more just to be mech. Although we do see some later stim with the same opening. 2 gases of the natural, quicker than maybe you would need. I'm saying mech. We'll see what the Hellbat attack does. Sometimes Hellbat attacks are the thing you need to really win the game. Just like, oh, okay, they weren't prepared for it. They can't deal with the battlecruiser either. I guess we win. Sometimes it looks like Hellions would have done better. That a fast attack of 10 seconds is better than a slow attack of 30, 45 seconds. SortOf was not prepared for this. SortOf does not have any scouting, really. Maybe he saw... Oh, no, he did see the fusion core. My bad. So he had scouting, but he was so focused on the fusion core that he didn't have any scout for the armory. So the Hellbats are a bit of a surprise. Probably ready to deal with a Hellion run by, but the Hellbats are a different issue. Battlecruiser also didn't go for their harassment. It went to go help the Hellbats, so all the damage was being done with their splash on top of the Queens, plus the DPS from the Battlecruiser means that SortOf is quickly running out of defensive units. Single Spore Crawler at the third base, not even a Spore Crawler at the natural, but it's still more about those Hellbats. We have +1 armor on the way. That's going to help the Battlecruiser and obviously the Hellbats too, but he might be going into Cyclones beyond this, if he even needs to go anything beyond this. This looks like it's enough to win the game. Certainly give Clem a big advantage. SortOf didn't just lose a lot of drones at this point, 15. He also lost 7 Queens, and whatever roads are popping out can't really help out. Things are really snowballing here, even as the Battlecruiser gets lower and lower in health, and it starts to look like maybe there's a shining ray of hope at the end of this tunnel. This is not. There's actually a second Battlecruiser. The bright light at the end of the tunnel was just another Battlecruiser. Feels bad. So that just about does it, really. You know, 3 Queens at a time is not that scary. Even with 1 Battlecruiser, very, very weak. The Roaches will desperately go for a counter here. And their desperation is not uncalled for. It's also not a terrible idea in general, as there are nothing but Hellions currently. No Cyclones have been made yet, no tanks either. But a Battlecruiser could just teleport back, and in fact, I think one already did, because it was so weak. Yeah, it did. So, if this was 20, 30 Roaches, I mean, Clem's in a lot of trouble. But this is 5 Roaches, so he's not in trouble. This Battlecruiser is finally also getting low, but we have a 3rd Battlecruiser on the way. They're very long-producing units, so it's like, on the way. So maybe the snowball has finally stopped, but this has been such a long time for SortOf to lose units and lose economy. I mean, this is not looking so hot, even if the supplies don't look so bad. The pacing of the game is very off for the Zerg player, and as soon as this 3rd CC is defended, Clem should skyrocket ahead in supply, even if he's going mech, right? If this is bio, he's already producing 10 Marines at a time, and it's really looking quite grim, but even with mech and its slower start to the game, only still on 3 factories, right? It's still going to be something where I think SortOf's going to fall behind in supply. Drastically, probably, but, you know, even if it's only by 20 supply or even supply, it's not going to look good against a mech player, right? You want to be far above in supply against a mech player, looking for openings before they get to the 4th base. You want to be ready for their push whenever it comes. Not going to happen.